Tonight, governments are spying on environmentalists, and that's a good thing, because they're out to get us all! Thanks for joining us, folks. Now, despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where those who wish to see our entire way of life destroyed may just be our fellow citizens. We live in a world where open calls for the annihilation of our most tightly held beliefs have become commonplace. We live in a world where, despite our shocking lack of freedom, our government refuses to take preemptive action on those who despise our culture. It makes them so angry that they attack us for simply driving to the corner store. Such men and women insult us on a daily basis, calling themselves a member of the resistance. They're calling on their supporters to go crazy. They form movements with names like Power Shift, Power Shift, Power Shift. And their prophet, a man whose name is synonymous with bloodshed, carnage, and violence, has decreed that those who fight for their common purpose are in a battle that is much more difficult than the struggle to vanquish Hitler. For this time, the war is with ourselves. We are the enemy. They've taken their own advice to heart. It's actually gone crazy. We are the enemy? We are the enemy. Yeah, sure, we're our own enemy. This guy's like a caterpillar infected by a parasitic wasp who injected it with a brain chemical that makes it want to feed its own flesh to the wasp's young. But I'll give this wacko one thing. If he expects me to give up any part of my life, this thing I got going on right here, I'll make Hitler look like a skinned chicken corpse. Boom! Ow! Oh! Ouch! What motivates these anti-human humans? And what can I do to get rid of this rash? These questions and more answered on our new segment, Riel World.
To find out what happens
when people stop being polite
and start getting real.
Riel World. Environmentalists simply refuse to leave well enough alone. I learned my lesson when Columbo Pete's pubic hair was labeled a fire hazard. I didn't go near it, didn't touch it, didn't even try. But these enviros have been harping on about creating a better world, and then big oil comes along and builds one in Dubai. But greenies just gotta stir that pot. On May 31st, Turkish environmentalists staged a sit-in to protest the government's plans to destroy a popular park and replace it with a military base and shopping center. The subsequent crackdown on these activists spawned national protests that have plagued the Turkish government ever since.
Protesters take over Taksim Square. Thousands pack the popular area, describing this as a victory.
I mean, these guys just sit in a park and all hell breaks loose. Something's got to be done. Thankfully, something is. More and more governments are starting to realize the threat environmentalists pose. We've already documented the Canadian government's treating of environmental protesters as national security threats. But after the revelation that the NSA is taking your foreign-born baby pictures off Facebook, environmental groups are beginning to feel the burning eye of the American government. I say it's about time, and Big Rex has got my back. ExxonMobil exec Rex Tillerson, or Tilrex as I like to call him, attacked efforts to reduce CO2 emissions, stating that they would be devastating to economies, societies, and people's health. And we all know the oil industry has already cornered that market. Boo! 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 Instead, Tillerson suggested we accept CO2 increase and focus on mitigating the problems it causes. And I agree. I just hope he figures out what that means soon, because as it turns out, big oil's running two worlds, and both of them are sinking. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all other ground is sinking sand. That's all we have for you tonight, folks. Keep it locked. I mean, these guys just sit in a park, pop a squat, and let loose their bowels. And all hell breaks loose. I mean, talk about a movement.